It's hard to believe that in the 2 years that we've been on the air with Casting Actors Cast and with over 27,000 listens, we find ourselves here at this really strange point in time. Now, if you're like me, you're probably wondering what's next. Let's just call today's episode Growing Pains on today's 2-year anniversary show of Casting Actors Cast.
Welcome to Casting Actors Cast. It's the podcast for actors in the business of show. Here is your host, Jeffrey Dreisbach.
Well, hello, and welcome to today's episode of Casting Actors Cast. My name is Jeffrey Dreisbach, and I'm a casting director with the McCorkle Group in New York. How are you? I hope you're well. It's a special day today because it was actually 2 years ago when we started this podcast. Honestly, it's kind of hard to believe, yet here we are. I'm calling today's episode Growing Pains because we need to address some realities in this unusual time we're living in with the coronavirus, Black Lives Matter awareness, and the uncertainties of what it might mean to be an actor in the near future. You know, I think it's time we take a look at where we stand as artists, as students, as professionals in this new normal. But first, this is that moment of the podcast where I'd like to thank those of you who are regular listeners to Casting Actors Cast. You know, it means so much to me that you choose to tune in on a weekly basis and be part of this ever-growing community. I'm especially grateful to those of you who share this podcast with your peers, with fellow actors, your acting partner in acting class. Now, for those of you who are new to this podcast, I encourage you to go to the website, www.castingactorscast.com, for information. And when you fill out the information form, it's a request for your name and your email address. By the way, I don't do anything with that information, but it's called Dive into the Talent Pool. And when you fill out that form and click submit, you'll receive a downloadable book on voice acting called Conversation Pieces Out of the Studio, the Voiceover Workshop for Professional Actors. It's 100 pages, absolutely free. Also, I just want you to know that this podcast is driven by questions you have about the business of acting and the business of show. So you can go to castingactorscast, all one word, at gmail.com, and feel free to send me or shoot me an email. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're watching this on video, what we are calling podio, podcast video, please consider being a subscriber and telling your friends about this. The more people that are listening, the better it is for me to stay motivated to continue to do these podcasts. I really love doing them. And as long as there are folks out there like yourselves listening and tuning in, I will definitely be here to kind of, pull the curtain between casting directors and actors. Because I think ultimately, when there's full transparency about the process of being an actor and being in casting, I think that there's nothing but good to be gained from that. So finally, I want to give a shout out to Actors Connection. Please go to actorsconnection.com. They have cool classes, seminars, intensives taking place in this wonderful organization all the time. A special note, on Monday, June 22nd at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Actors Connection, in conjunction with Penny Templeton Studios, will be holding a green screen class for advanced actors. That starts at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, this is an excellent opportunity to learn the technology and learn how to act with a green screen. So that's a really important class. If you're an advanced actor, this is a class that must not be missed, so please go check it out. Now, speaking of checking it out, let's go to today's mailbag and answer a question, shall we? Great.
Okay, let's check out this week's mail. Just go to castingactorscast.com and fill out the comment form. It's easy.
So I received this really lovely email, and, frankly, I did not get permission to use this person's name. I hope you understand. I'm sorry I didn't kind of jump on that. I wanted to get this podcast out in a timely fashion, but I will read a couple of portions from this email that I received, because I think it not only speaks to what's going on today, but I also think there's definitely a question that should be answered here. And this listener writes, "I love your podcast. It's become one of the stabilizing features of my life during this turbulent time. I mean that, Jeffrey. Your calm, positive, pragmatic voice giving real information has helped me so much. For your information, I listen on Stitcher, and I tell as many people as I can that they should tune in." Gosh, I'm so grateful that you do that and that you're a listener, and thank you so much for that. Here's the question. In one of your podcasts, you said that you didn't think musical theater work, I took that to mean auditions and classes, etc., worked well online. While I assume the sound quality is the big issue, I'd love to hear more from you and any solutions that you might have. As you might have guessed, this has been my main focus. So thank you again for that question. And I did mention that. I did talk about when we're Zooming, and we're talking about Zooming auditions, the area that I just found, to be a little problematic was really being able to evaluate musical theater auditions the way that we would do, in a live, person-to-person kind of environment. And I didn't mean to be disparaging whatsoever to those of you who are working on voice classes and really doing the work, but I want to tease it apart just a little bit so that you understand where I'm coming from. One of the elements of a live musical audition is being able to really hear you well. So sound really becomes an important issue. Now, if you've done the work and made decided to get some technology, by that I mean a really good microphone, perhaps a well-made lavalier microphone, they're not that expensive, that can clip on your lapel and really get a good quality sound from your voice. If I can evaluate your vocal quality, then that's a really, really good thing. So yes, sound happens to be the biggest issue. The other issue that I'm having is for the performer to be singing along with a track. In other words, they've gotten together with their accompanist, or they've hired an accompanist to play their book, and the accompanist plays their book, and you're working with the accompanist, then the accompanist records it. Now you're just singing back to the accompanist. That's not an ideal situation, only because understand that when you're in a live room, the dynamics of your ability to work with an accompanist in a musical audition kind of gets lost, because now you're following the track rather than kind of being able to be expressive in the moment with the tunes that you've selected for your audition. Now, you know what? I don't have any easy answers about that. I will say that as long as the sound quality of your voice is good and that you've done as much as you possibly can to make the sound quality of the accompaniment to be really strong and part of the performance. Too many times I hear the music so in the distant, or it's so tinny because of whatever electronic device you're playing it back on, that it takes me out of listening or watching you. And that's kind of the biggest issue that I have. So if you have decent enough speakers, if you are able to produce a really good balance between your voice and the accompaniment, then I think it's absolutely fine. And by the way, as I've said in earlier podcasts, this is going to be the way of the future. This is going to be what's going to be happening anyway. So as long as you give yourself, the benefit of the doubt and pull together all of the technology that you can do. By the way, there are all kinds of YouTube videos and things about doing this kind of thing as well. So you might want to check that out. But those were my only hesitations. But it was so ironic that I mentioned that in my podcast, and it was like 3 or 4 days later that I was asked to watch musical theater auditions at a university. And, I had to kind of change my mind a little bit. So, I'm malleable as we're all kind of learning this new technology. It's really apparent that, there are things to be learned yet, and I certainly am one of them who's trying to really understand what are the benefits and what are the drawbacks as far as auditioning is concerned. Now, the other area about musical theater auditioning, obviously, is your movement. That's something that can only take place in a callback situation. That's why, in my opinion, musicals are probably going to be a little bit later on the curve in terms of people getting back to work, because I think the movement part, I mean, it's just almost impossible to ask an actor to, move furniture in their apartment to show the combination that a choreographer might need to see. I just think that the logistics are going to be really challenging. I'm sure somebody really creative out there is going to come up with a great solution, but until then, I think the dancing part's going to be reserved for a callback when things are getting more back to normal. Again, thank you so much for that really nice note, and I really appreciate you reaching out the way you did. And sorry, I didn't ask to use your name, so I'm going to withhold it, but you have my deepest thanks. Okay, so let's talk about growing pains. That's the subject of today's podcast, and that's really amazing because the parallel between what you are going through with what the future holds for you as an actor can be a real challenge, right? On one hand, you want to stay current with what's happening among the acting communities, and on the other hand, you might be questioning whether being an actor makes sense. After all, there are so many issues to be concerned about right now that your acting career may seem less important. Now, to be sure, I believe that we're probably going to be losing many, many actors to alternative careers because the current situation just can't sustain an actor. So actors are going to be looking for other opportunities, and perhaps they're thinking there will be something that they'll be coming back to, or maybe they're just simply, like many of us, reevaluating our whole view of what the future might be. So, with that in mind, I would like to share some thoughts about what you can do now for your acting future. Now, clearly, we all know that there's no real acting opportunities right now. Yes, there are classes. Yes, there are seminars. Yes, there are virtual play readings and connections to be made with your fellow actors. But in reality, there's no acting business. So let's look up some things that you can do right now that can make you valuable right now. So you have all kinds of amazing gifts that if you're not really using them to their full advantage during this unusual time that we're in, then I would just like to give you kind of a list of those things that you as an actor already have at your disposal. And then maybe we can apply those to some opportunities that exist right now, right? So as an actor right now, you have an amazing ability to communicate. Your ability to connect with another person, your ability to put yourself out there and communicate thoughts, feelings, your talent is a valuable commodity, unique to you. And so don't dismiss that you have an amazing ability to communicate. And how might that apply to what's going on out there right now? So spend a moment and think about that. Another thing that you have an outgoing personality. Now, there are some actors who don't have the most outgoing personality. That's not what I'm talking about. But for the most part, your ability to present yourself, your ability to go out and be in front of others, that's very powerful. And that can be a very, very useful and attractive part of who you are. It certainly can be that as it relates to working with other people. So don't dismiss your outgoing personality and the benefits that that has in relation to what might be asked for in our current situation. I also think it's amazing that you have an ability to have empathy. having an empathetic response to the current situation we find ourselves in. You have empathy to the difficulties that others might be going through. You have empathy that can make you really valuable as a listener. Just simply listening to another human being has great power. And that empathetic response is very, very healthy. Studies have definitely shown that when you care about another human being, for example, that it actually improves your own physical health. So that empathy quality that is part of who you are, that makes you extremely valuable as well. I also think along with empathy is that you have that connection to the human condition. You understand, you've studied behavior, you've studied other human beings. I think actors, frankly, have at least a bachelor's degree in psychology. Because you've studied character, you've studied emotion, you've gotten in touch with your own, but you've also experienced that in others. And your connection to the human condition is really something that is unique and special. And actors are a unique bunch because of that ability and that connection to the human condition. And then there's something that I think is really important to point out about actors in general. And this is something that you can't teach. I've often said that your love of performance, the fact that you want to be an actor, the fact that many of you see yourself doing nothing else because you love being out there, you love the performance, you love being on set, you love being on stage, that love is unique. Not everybody in the world has that same attractive connection to performing that you do. And so you also have this wonderful need to be creative. So it's really important during this very, very difficult time because you have this need to be creative, but yet there aren't those acting opportunities that are out there. So that presents a challenge, and that's the growing pain that I'm experiencing, and I'm sure probably that's something that you're experiencing right now. But the fact that you have this drive and this need to be creative means you need to find creative outlets that can help you fully realize all of those gifts that we've just talked about. Now, once you've fully embraced and you understand all of your gifts, you're going to be able to apply them to those that might need them right now. Now, I'm not talking about this as being an alternative career choice to being an actor, but honestly, this is a way to keep you moving forward so that when the business starts up again, and I know it will, you will have made a contribution using your talents. I'm reminded of the phrase, pain is inevitable, but suffering is an option. So I'm here to tell you it's okay to feel fearful of the future, but turning that fear into something creative will prepare you when things become less fearful. So please take your classes. Read your scripts, connect with others, use your talents for the greater good in other ways during this weird, frustrating, and emotional time. It'll pay off big dividends. So don't stay hung up on just being an actor who cannot act. Using all of those gifts and all of those talents to helping others, to going out there and making your personality shine when there's so much stress and so much strife and so many difficult things that we're trying to get through right now, that you can actually reinforce all of those things that can make the world a better place, but ultimately, in the end, will make you a better actor. I promise. So I kind of waxed overly philosophically today. I kind of maybe went a little overboard for you. And for that, if it was, weird for you, I'm sorry. I just felt this need right now. I'm feeling very, very vulnerable and very, very sensitive. Of course, I'm terrified of the future. Just like actors, casting directors are waiting for job opportunities as well. And so even though we're not sure of what the future is, we know that we can still continue to make connections, as our casting company is still meeting on a regular basis. We're still looking at videos. People are sending in submissions all the time. So we're doing all of the work that we know we can do. And then we're also taking a break. We're also relaxing. We're using this as an opportunity to recharge our batteries. And I hope that that's something that you would consider doing as well. So that's our second year anniversary show. I didn't want to go over past episodes. Gosh, I've got over 114 or 15 podcasts over the past couple of years. I want to move forward, and I want you to come and move forward with me. So let's hang in there together. Please continue to write to me if you have any questions. If I can be of any help at all, that's what I'm here for. And finally, again, thanks for tuning in. This is Casting Actors Cast, and I'm Jeffrey Dreisbach.
Casting Actors Cast is made possible with your support just by listening. Please like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.